Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today, we are taking a truly deep dive into one of the most fascinating stories of this entire NFL offseason, the high-stakes, drama-filled hunt for the Washington Commanders' next defensive coordinator. This is all going down under their brand new head coach, Dan Quinn, and believe me when I say, this is about so much more than just filling a spot on the coaching staff. For a team trying to forge a whole new identity, this one hire could literally define the next era of Washington football. Okay, let's just start with the stakes, because they honestly could not be higher. This quote from A to Z Sports, well, it doesn't pull any punches, does it? Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded head coach. That's his brand, that's his entire reputation. So the guy he picks to run his defense isn't just an assistant, he's basically his co-pilot. Think about it. If the defense completely falls apart, who gets the blame? Sure, the DC will, but ultimately, all eyes turn to the head coach whose whole career is built on defense. If he gets this wrong, his credibility could be shot before he even gets going. You know, the team moved super fast to get their offensive coordinator, which made everyone feel pretty good, right? It felt like the new guys in charge were decisive, they were on the ball. But finding the right defensive leader, well, that's turned out to be way more complicated, way more critical, and let's be honest, a whole lot more chaotic. The difference between how these two searches have gone tells you everything you need to know about the pressure they're under to nail this thing. Now, what's so telling here is the contrast. Just look at this. On the offensive side of the ball, it was quick, it was clean. They got their guy, and that was that. No real drama. But then you flip over to the defense, and it's the complete opposite. It's been the sprawling, complex search full of twists, turns, top targets suddenly vanishing, and brand new names popping up out of nowhere. This isn't just a job search. It's become a high-stakes chess match for the whole league to watch. So at first, it really seemed like Washington had a clear path forward. It felt like Dan Quinn and the front office had their guys zeroed in. And this wasn't just some name on a list. This was someone with a deep, established connection to the new head coach. He was, for all intents and purposes, the logical choice, the guy who could hit the ground running and install Quinn's defensive vision from day one. And according to ESPN's John Keim, who is about as plugged in as you can get with this team, that guy was Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. He was reportedly right at the very top of their wish list, and when you look at the history between him and Dan Quinn, it's so easy to see why. He wasn't just a candidate, he was Plan A.
So why Ulbrich? Well, the connection is just obvious. When Quinn was the head coach in Atlanta, Ulbrich was his linebackers coach. They have a shared history, they speak the same defensive language, and there's a level of trust there you just can't fake. On top of that, Ulbrich is seen around the league as a real top-tier defensive mind. And here's the proof, the big tell. The Falcons were actively blocking other teams like the Cowboys from even interviewing him for the same job. That's a team basically screaming, nope, this guy is too valuable. He's ours. Back off.
But then, just when it looked like Washington was ready to make their move, the whole plan just blew up. On January 19th, the Falcons made it official. They were keeping Jeff Ulbrich. And just like that, with one announcement, Washington's top choice was off the table. Gone. This meant the Commanders had to pivot, and they had to do it fast. Plan A was history, and the pressure was suddenly cranked way, way up. You know, it's funny how the NFL works sometimes. Just as that one very important door slammed shut on the Commanders, a total bombshell elsewhere in the league unexpectedly blew another one wide open. And this new door, well, it led to a possibility that almost nobody saw coming just a few weeks ago, an opportunity that was born directly from another team's chaos. In a move that sent actual shockwaves through the league, the Buffalo Bills fired their head coach, Sean McDermott. I mean, after 9 seasons of turning that franchise into a consistent winner, the Bills decided to go in a new direction. And that single decision, happening hundreds of miles away, instantly added a huge, respected defensive genius to the coaching pool, completely changing the game for a team like the Commanders, who are now scrambling for a new plan. Okay, so this is where the whole search gets really, really interesting. Could the former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, a guy who took that team from being irrelevant to a perennial contender, be the ultimate answer for Washington? I mean, when you start to actually look at his resume, it's not just good, it's dominant. I mean, just let this sink in for a second. In 9 seasons in Buffalo, he had only one losing record. He took a team that hadn't seen the playoffs in nearly 2 decades and got them there in 8 of his 9 years. And let's not forget that 5-year stranglehold they had on the AFC East. This is a guy who knows how to build a winning culture from the ground up. He didn't just make the Bills better, he made them a powerhouse. And this chart right here, this says it all. Look at that gap. It's a canyon. Over the last 2 seasons,
The Commanders' defense was ranked on average 22nd in the league. Now look at McDermott's Bills, 11th. And here's the crazy part. For him, those were considered down years for his defense. What this tells you is that Sean McDermott's absolute floor seems to be higher than Washington's recent ceiling. And look, he didn't just walk into a great situation in Buffalo. He built that thing brick by brick. He took over a totally average, middle-of-the-pack defense. It took a couple years to get his guys in and install his system. But then, in year 3, boom, they jumped to number 2 in the entire league. And it wasn't a fluke. They stayed elite, finishing in the top 5 in scoring in 5 of the next 6 seasons. That is sustained, dominant excellence.
So this all leads to the million-dollar question, right? The elephant in the room. After almost a decade as the top guy in Buffalo, the leader of the whole organization, would Sean McDermott really be willing to take a step back and be a coordinator again, to work for another head coach? It's a legitimate question. Would it be a chance for him to just focus on defense again, without all the other pressures? Or is it a strategic one-year move to rehab his image and get another head coaching gig? It's the one big variable in this whole fascinating scenario. Now, while McDermott is the big, shiny new name that popped up, we can't forget that the Commanders have been doing their homework all along. They've been interviewing a number of other really sharp, highly qualified coaches, and each one of them brings a totally different set of circumstances to the table. All right, Brian Flores, this is a name that gets a lot of fans excited, and you can see why. He's one of the most aggressive and creative defensive minds in the game. The Commanders did get an interview with him, and there's a great connection there with their new GM, Adam Peters. But, and it's a huge but, Flores is also a top candidate for head coaching jobs. So while landing him would be an absolute home run, realistically, it's probably a long shot. Then you've got a guy like Carl Scott from the Seahawks. He's seen as a real up-and-comer. The tricky part with him was all about timing. Because his team was still in the playoffs, the Commanders would have had to wait until Seattle was knocked out to even offer him the job. That's a super risky waiting game to play when other great candidates could get snapped up by another team. Jonathan Gannon is another one. He's a really hot name on the coaching circuit this year, interviewing with a bunch of different teams. And what that means for Washington is simple: competition. If Gannon is their guy, they can't just sit around and wait, because another team could swoop in and grab him. It turns into a bidding war, and you risk losing out if you're not aggressive. So this table really just lays out the strategic minefield the Commanders have to navigate. You've got the huge name in McDermott, but with the big question mark. You've got the dream hire in Flores, who's probably out of reach. You've got the up-and-comer in Scott, who came with a forced waiting period, and the hot commodity in Gannon, who has other suitors. We haven't even really touched on Raheem Morris, who hasn't interviewed at all, which suggests he's aiming for a head coaching job. Every single path has its own risks and rewards. This whole saga is the perfect real-world definition of what we call the chaotic coaching carousel. It's that wild time of year where one team makes a move and it creates these massive, unforeseen ripple effects across the league. I mean, think about it. The Bills firing Sean McDermott had nothing to do with Washington's original plan, but that one move completely changed the game, altering the strategy and potential outcome of their entire search. It's a perfect domino effect in action. So that's where we stand. This is a massive, franchise-altering decision that is going to define Dan Quinn's tenure in Washington. You've got this surprising, high-profile, proven winner in Sean McDermott who basically fell into their laps. And then you have this field of other really strong contenders, each with their own set of pros and cons. The pressure is on, the clock is ticking, and the entire future of the Commanders' defense is hanging in the balance. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Commanders' coaching search, please make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus so you don't miss out on any of our future content. And do me a favor, hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. I really want to know what you think. Drop a comment below and tell me who you think the Commanders should hire. Should they go for the proven winner in McDermott? The innovator in Flores? Let me know. And hey, one last thing. A really great way to support what we do here at the channel is by checking out our NFL-themed coloring books. They're seriously perfect for fans of all ages. For your kids, grandkids, or even for you if you're just looking for a fun way to unwind. The link is down in the description, or you can just scan the QR code on your screen right now. Your support really does help us keep making these deep dives. Thanks for watching.